donkey through the woods in the dark of night. Ahead she saw an inn that was all lit up by pale moonlight. She stopped there until morning just to rest her old wearied bones. She paid for food and lodging with the shards of broken precious stones. Her room was dark and gloomy, that night was cold and damp. There was no light inside, there was no flame burning in the lamp. And when the morning sun came rising, the woman readied for to leave. When suddenly a little girl appeared who was tugging at her sleeve. They had no common language, that woman was a stranger in that land. That little girl looked frightened, she took the woman by her withered hand. And gesturing to follow, the child led the woman out the door. They mounted on the donkey and rode it through the woods once more. Flew above them and it followed them for quite a ways. Those woods were getting denser, passing through them might take them many days. They had neither food nor water, and they saw no other travelers on that route. But somewhere in the distance they can hear the dulcet tones of a flute. Although they knew not why. Yet through the woods they sought it out, beneath the slowly darkening sky. As nightfall came at last, they felt themselves to be under a soft spell of a tiny man who played that flute while standing beside an ancient well. He was an ancient creature from the wild. Somehow he spoke that woman's tongue and said, pointing to the child, "I see you brought a bride for me." He grinned and stood there in his rags. "I've been offered brides before, you know, but they have always been old hags. One, she's so much more to my taste. Just leave her here, you can go. I have no time left now to waste. No more idle conversation. You've already been here far too long. Now leave us be gone, old witch, before I do you wrong." But she would not go. Instead she raised and waved her one good arm. "I must not leave you, sir," she said, "or this bride will cause you harm. I must use the dark arts on her before you can safely take her hand. Or her magic touch will kill you, sir, kill you right there where you stand. Strip this little bride of all her power and The woman said, "Ah, but that moon, it has an evil, mighty twin. And if you look down in your well, sir, you shall see that twin within." Well, the tiny man looked down the well and saw, much to his surprise, a perfect twin of the moon above that lay there right before his eyes. The woman said, "I need that light whose magic comes straight on up from hell. So, sir, climb down that rope and fetch for me that light down in the well." With a great huge spoon in his hand to scoop the moon out of the water below and bring it up to dry land. But when he reached the bottom and tried so hard to catch that moon, each time he scooped there was no moon, there was only water in his spoon. The woman used a shard of precious stone to cut that rope. It fell into the water and wrapped itself around that misanthrope. It dragged him to the bottom and pulled him down as it did slowly sink. 'Twas a watery grave for that tiny man down there in the drink. That the old man took her for. She was but an old grandmother fleeing from some foreign war. When she found herself entrapped at that strange old creature's lair, she would not leave that child behind to wed that evil creature there. Silhouetted by the moon above then, did that raven reappear. It seemed to say, "Let me lead the way and I will take you far away from here." So that old woman and young child followed behind that raven's flight and were led out of those cursed woods before the end of that long night. A young woman suddenly stood there, all dressed in black with long flowing locks of her raven black hair. And then she lifted up her daughter and embraced her tightly with one arm, and with the other that grandmother who had saved her precious child from all that harm.